Thank you, Chairman Paul. I'm the last of your questioners, so that means I get unlimited amounts of time.
Okay.
Not really. Not even close. I want to sort of continue the emphasis on bipartisanship and most especially on immigration reform. What this nation needs is comprehensive immigration reform. We know about the need for more H-1B visas and other kinds of extensions of the visa program that enable the United States to have more workers that are desperately needed in certain areas of our country. We know that there has to be better border security generally. We know we need to provide some kind of path to earn citizenship for a lot of the undocumented people in this country. And we know it's possible because we did it in 2013. Mm-hmm. The United States Senate, as you will recall, passed a comprehensive immigration reform measure. Overwhelmingly, it was bipartisan. I was proud to be a part of it going through the Judiciary Committee, but obviously it will involve Homeland Security. And I hope that we can continue, as Senator Langford was a part of the effort in the last session, to expand on those efforts and move forward on a bipartisan basis toward bipartisan, comprehensive immigration reform. I want to talk to you a little bit about domestic terrorism, which we discussed during my previous round, and I know you've discussed it afterward, including not just migrant crime and radicalization by ISIS, which are real and present problems. I also want to ask you about domestic terrorism events. Unrelated to groups outside our borders. We've seen a rise in anti-Semitism in this country. It has spiked beyond any prediction. Yeah. And I want to know of your concern with anti-Semitist, racist events, Charlottesville, Buffalo, Pittsburgh. There's a shorthand for these violent terrorist acts against people in the United States.
Yes, Senator, I'm very concerned about what we've seen in this country as far as anti-Semitic violence that has happened. In fact, last year during our legislative session, I brought legislation to more clearly define it so that we could fight it in our home state. And I'm hopeful I can work with you to continue to do what we can to make sure that we are addressing this rising threat and not facilitating it in this country.
And I just want to make sure that when you say we're protecting Americans against terrorism, that we're protecting all Americans, including people in mosques, in churches, in synagogues, people regardless of their worship, their race, their background. We need to protect all Americans from anti-Semitism, racism, Islamophobia. I hope you'll commit to that effort.
Yes, correct. Thank you, Senator, and I look forward to working with you to do that.
In my closing minute and a half, I just want to call your attention to an effort that I've led to help reunite children with their parents, children who were separated as a result of the so-called family separation policy in the last administration. I have introduced a measure called Keep Families Together, not only to limit separation of families at or near ports of entry, but also the Families Belong Together Act for several Congresses to help bring the children, the kids who were victims of this policy and who still are not back with their parents. I hope that you will support that kind of effort.
Senator, the Trump administration never had a family separation policy. They had a zero tolerance policy, which said that our laws would be followed. What I'm alarmed by is the over 300,000 children that went missing during the Biden administration. And when we talk about children and what they're potentially facing as far as victimization in this country and the trafficking that's going on, this administration's lack of desire to find out where those children are or what they may be going through is alarming to me. So I want to
because my
stop
time is
that.
expiring, I'm just going to interrupt again with apologies to say, let's put aside.
Well, I can't put aside 340,000 children.
Labels. Let's put aside what happened in the past. There are still 1,000 children who are separated and waiting to be reunited. I'd like your commitment that you're going to continue the effort to reunite them with their parents.
Senator, keeping families together is critically important to me and to this country. I'm concerned about Laken Riley's family, that they no longer have her. I'm concerned about the fact that we have people in this country that don't know where their children are, or people in other countries who sent their children here and they've been lost by this administration. So yes, my focus will be to keep families together. We will uphold our law and we'll make sure that we're doing everything we can to keep our children safe from the trafficking and the drug epidemic that's hit this country.
What unfolded between Senator Richard Blumenthal and Governor Kristi Noem wasn't routine political back and forth. It was a collision of truth versus denial. In that moment, you could feel something rare. Two opposing worldviews trying to define the same event, the same history, the same moral reality. Blumenthal spoke with the weight of memory, invoking one of the darkest chapters in recent American policy: the family separation crisis at the southern border. For him, it is not an issue buried in past headlines. It is an open wound that thousands of parents and children still live with every day. As he brings it up, you can hear the gravity in his voice, the quiet insistence that we cannot rewrite trauma just because it's politically inconvenient. He reminds the room and the country that under the Trump administration's zero-tolerance stance, children were taken from their parents as a deterrent strategy. People on the ground, Border Patrol agents, caseworkers, even federal prosecutors, later admitted that the process created chaos and confusion. Records were lost. Toddlers were flown across the country with no tracking system to reconnect them with their parent. Babies were kept in shelters. Siblings were separated. Some families still haven't been reunited. These aren't talking points. They're scars. But Kristi Noem responds with certainty. There was no family separation policy. And here is where the exchange becomes something deeper. She doesn't deny that children were taken. She denies that the administration intended it as policy. She shifts the language, reframes the narrative, tries to turn what Blumenthal calls moral failure into a matter of legal interpretation. Instead of acknowledging the pain, she focuses on the semantics. It's not family separation, she insists. It's zero tolerance. As if giving suffering a new label sanitizes it. Her defense tries to convince viewers that this wasn't a choice, just a consequence. But consequences born from choices are still choices. And that is what makes Blumenthal push harder, because to deny the policy is to deny the responsibility. The heart of this clash is not about definitions, it's about accountability. Blumenthal's urgency comes from a simple truth. If we can't admit what happened, we can't prevent it from happening again. He pushes for a commitment that families still separated will be located, reunited, and compensated for what this country put them through. He's not just asking the government to remember, he's asking it to repair. Noem refuses to engage on that emotional and moral level. Instead, she pivots, accusing the current administration of losing hundreds of thousands of unaccompanied migrant children. It's a rhetorical sidestep, one meant to redirect anger and create the illusion that all sides are equally guilty. This is what political strategists call deflection. Instead of answering for the past, she tries to overwhelm the audience with a new outrage. This is where the debate exposes the real flaw in America's immigration conversation. The children get lost in the crossfire. Both parties spend so much time blaming each other that they forget the one group that never chose to be part of this debate: the families. Immigration, at its core, is not about walls, policy language, or party victories. It's about human beings, people fleeing violence, parents risking everything for their children, children who did not ask to become symbols of a political war. And in this moment, watching Blumenthal and Noem, it becomes clear how politics can erase humanity. Noem argues legality, Blumenthal argues morality. One debates rules, the other debates consequences. He refuses to let language wash away pain. What makes this moment powerful is what lies underneath: a battle for the American conscience. We are watching two visions of leadership collide. One believes that if something is technically legal, it must be justified. The other believes that legality without humanity is cruelty wearing a badge. Blumenthal is essentially asking, what kind of country takes children from parents and calls it policy? And even more importantly, what kind of country denies it happened? Noem's refusal to acknowledge family separation as policy illustrates something much larger and more dangerous: the way leaders use language to reshape public memory. If a painful truth hurts your political narrative, just rename it. Call separation procedure, call trauma deterrence, call suffering enforcement. It is easier to debate semantics than to confront emotional responsibility. The chilling part is not that it happened. History contains countless examples of governments rationalizing cruelty. The chilling part is how quickly people are willing to forget when the suffering becomes inconvenient. A country that forgets its failures becomes destined to repeat them. And for the families still separated, this debate isn't a political spectacle. It is their life. Imagine being a parent who hasn't seen your child in 4 years and watching elected leaders argue about whether your nightmare technically counts as policy. That is why this exchange matters. It forces a question onto the table. Do we value being right more than doing right? In the end, the message from this moment is clear. Leadership without compassion is hollow. Truth without accountability is meaningless. And language without honesty becomes manipulation. America cannot move forward if its leaders cannot say 3 simple words: "We were wrong." Because remembering is not about blame. It's about safeguarding our humanity. Stay informed, question the framing, and demand leaders who choose empathy over excuses.